Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Rehab Sciences webinar. So I just wanted to welcome everybody to learning how we do this here in the OzTREKK space. So my name is Laura. I will be walking you through the admissions process and what comes after for rehabilitation programs in Australia. Okay, so today's agenda is I would like you to learn a little bit more about what OzTREKK is and what OzTREKK does and how we can assist you, your degree and university options in Australia, ideas for how to get the money that you'll need to pay for your degree and cost of living overseas, and then what you can do with that degree after you are all done, especially if your ideas is your plans rather are to come back to Canada. Okay, so what is OzTREKK? OzTREKK is an education agent. So what we do is we assist students with their applications to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward and ensuring that we have all the necessary documents and everything we need to help you successfully apply for university programs in Australia. Our main mantra is student first. So what we want to do is support you any way that we can. We are the official representative of 14 Australian universities and one New Zealand university. We have student advisors that are dedicated to their specific program. So they're here to help you with every single detail about your program and your applications. And more than 1,000 OzTREKK students have commenced studies over the last 2 years. So we are definitely helping a lot of people, which is wonderful. Okay, so here's what to expect during the process. So we're here the very first step is to determine your eligibility for programs. We want to ensure that you have the best chance of success. So we will recommend the programs that are the best fit just for you. You can apply to many universities and multiple programs all at once. One of the nice things about OzTREKK is that you only ever have to send us one set of documents and we'll send them to all the universities to which you like to apply. We can certify your transcripts as official. This is kind of a wrinkle that the Australian universities specifically require. So we can take care of that for you. You don't have to go through a public notary or anything like that. We can assess each application outcome as it comes through. And then if we see something a little funny, we can go to bat for you. We have excellent communications with our universities. We've got people on point that we can speak to and expedite those processes as well. And then after we've managed to figure out the right acceptance for you, we can then help you get ready to go with all the details that you need to get on that plane and go start your overseas education. Here you can see the breakdown of all the universities that offer physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and chiro programs in Australia. So there are quite a few. Okay, so here's how the application process works. So the number one thing is that we will first answer any kind of preliminary questions that you may have, help you determine which programs that you're focusing in on. If you would like to send us an unofficial transcript, we can go through that transcript and really help you determine where you should be focusing your effort. And then we'll help you start your applications online. So first, we collect all of your documents here at our office, so nothing goes to universities yet. Once we've got all of the documents that we need ready to go, then we can submit them to the application portals at the different universities. Often, if we've got all of the documents that we need in your file, we can just shoot them to the universities as soon as those portals open and really get you in the door quickly. Now, one of the hardest parts of rehab sciences is when you have so many offers. I mean, it's a very nice problem to have, but often it can be a little tricky with the program starting at all different times of the year. It's hard to know which offer is the best one for you. So we can help you try to focus that down for yourself. And then once you've accepted that offer, of course, we'll give you all kinds of interesting tips and great advice for finding some financing, getting some accommodation, and applying for your student visa, clinical compliance requirements, and everything else that you'll need. And then it's time to go to Australia to start studying. And it's so much fun. Oh, physiotherapy. This is the best program. Okay, so here's a little bit of statistics to share. Of 624 applications that we submitted in 2022, of about half of those received offers. So that's pretty good stats. We've got 173 of those students currently studying overseas. And we find in general, on average, a competitive GPA is about 3.0 out of 4.0, but it varies between the programs, and we'll get to that in a minute. So we have 8 different physiotherapy degrees to which you can apply. You will notice that some of these programs say Master of Physiotherapy and some of them say Doctor of Physiotherapy. What does this mean? They are all master's degrees, but the Doctor of Physiotherapy is an extended master's degree. So the Master of Physiotherapy is generally a 4 or 5 semester program delivered over 2 years. The Doctor of Physiotherapy is a 6 semester program delivered over 2 or 3 years. Most of them are 3. It's just Bond that does a fast track. So you're doing each semester in sequence with no breaks over a 2-year period, and then you're out in the workplace a lot quicker. Okay, so another thing that you should know about Doctor of Physiotherapy is because you've got those 2 extra semesters, you'll get more coursework and more clinical hours, usually on average between DPT and MPT. You'll have the ability to take some advanced or some specialized electives if you want to try out some different topics. And it often includes a research project, which is something that employers really love to see. Okay, so when should students start their applications? Now, we have programs starting all different times of the year, which makes this space so much fun to work in. So we've got 4 programs that start in semester 1, which in Australia is January, February, March. I know it's hard to get your head around, but because the seasons are flipped, their fall is our spring and vice versa. So you'll be starting in either January or February at La Trobe, Sydney, Flinders, and Melbourne. Then we've got 2 programs that start in semester 2, which in Australia is either May, July, or August. So we've got 1 program in May, that's Bond, DPT, and then Monash and Macquarie DPT start in July. And then 1 program starts at the very end of November, and that's summer semester. I know. And that's UQ. So if you are graduating at the end of winter semester, which many students are, your very first point of contact with these universities will be to send them, well, to send us, and then we'll send on your behalf, your interim transcript of your fall semester results and your winter semester enrollment. So even though you're still studying, we can still submit your applications for you, and the universities can use this particular version of your transcript, fall semester results. So your credits are completed, your grades are calculated, and then your enrollment for winter. And then they can see your entire, all your prereqs that you've either gained and passed or that you're enrolled in. And then they can start doing a GPA assessment using your credits up until fall 2023 in this case, or 2024 as we go on. Okay, so let's go on to prerequisites. So there are 2 really main points of assessment for physiotherapy programs, with 2 exceptions. Of course, there's always exceptions. The main points of assessment are GPA, cumulative GPA for 7 out of the 8 programs. 1 is a weighted average mark, which they only look at the last 3 years of your 3 or 4 year degree, and then more weight is applied to the last 2 years of that degree. The other point of reference is completion of prerequisites. So we're looking at MSK anatomy, also functional and systems anatomy, physiology. So we need systems. This is human physiology, of course, so systems phys and exercise physiology for some programs as well. Bond would like to see a biomechanics course. Macquarie would like to have that on their intake form. If you've got biomechanics, they'd like to see it. Some universities require a psychology credit. Some universities require either a stats or a research methods, but in the case of Flinders, it's just research methods, no stats, although you can add it to your form if you like. And then at minimum, a GPA of 70%. Some universities, the competitive cutoffs are a bit higher, but we'll get into that in a while. And there's no admissions tests, no Casper, no nothing. We don't have to worry about any of those things. GPA, prereqs. In the case of Monash and Melbourne, there's also an interview as part of the admissions process. But other than that, it's just prereqs and GPA for admissions, which makes it nice and easy. Okay, so occupational therapy. Some people ask, now what's the difference between physiotherapy and occupational therapy? The 2 disciplines kind of dovetail together. So what physiotherapy does is through the use of exercise and conditioning will help you rebuild your mobility so that you can learn to walk and to do certain movements again, if you've been injured. Occupational therapy is sort of like an outside in type of discipline. So rather than working on the body, we work with the environment so that you will learn how to stand at your sink with more ease and comfort. If you're dealing with ability issues to build on those abilities and make your surroundings and your environment work better for you. So physiotherapy will help you learn to move, and occupational therapy will help you put on your makeup, get dressed, tie your shoes, and go to the dance, which is a wonderful quote from Susan from MOT at Bond, which I think is a very elegant way of putting it. So we've got 5 programs that are graduate degrees in occupational therapy. They are 2 to 2.5 years long. So 4 to 6 semesters. Bond has 6 semesters in their program, so it's a really deep dive into OT. You'll really get a wonderful education there. The other universities have 4 to 5 semesters, and also just a wonderful overview of those programs and that discipline. So again, we're looking at GPA and prereqs. So most of the time you're going to have one anatomy requirement, one physiology, and then some other stuff sometimes sprinkled in. So Flinders likes to see a communications credit, which is not something that everybody has on their transcript, but if you've got any professional or volunteer experience training, educating, instructing, helping someone learn something or to do something, then that will work. So send me a resume and we can use that in lieu of a credit in communications. Often a psychology credit. A lot of students who are coming from a psychology background will get into OT, so this is usually not a problem. Again, a research methods or statistics. A sociology credit can sometimes work if there's no psych on there. Usually, most students will have both, so we can submit both. At minimum, we're looking at a 70% and up to 75%. We find that most students who are in the 2.7, 3.0 grade point average tend to get offers. And again, admissions test is not required. Okay, so what's the difference between physio and chiropractic? So both of them are very hands-on, very anatomy-focused disciplines. Both are rehab sciences to increase mobility, to improve healing, and to help with pain. And chiropractic is mostly focused, as we know, on the spine and the neck and the nerve system. So it's almost, we call it physio adjacent. So there are 2 options for entry into the Macquarie University Chiropractic program, which is the best one that will help you come back to Canada. And it's an accredited program in Australia as well. So students who already have an undergraduate degree will, and a prerequisite, 1 anatomy, 1 physiology, they can apply to direct entry into the Master of Chiropractic program, which is a 3-year program. So it's 2 years of coursework and then an entire year of clinical placement, which is just wonderful. And will give you every single hour that you need to come home to apply for licensure back in your province. Now, students who don't already have an undergraduate degree, or maybe don't have an undergraduate degree in a related discipline, so maybe you took a B-commerce and you don't have any prereqs, then the undergraduate pathway is best for you. So you'll do 2 years in the bachelor pathway, which is the Bachelor of Chiropractic Sciences. It's kind of like a pre-med type of program. So it's like a pre-chiro program. So once you've completed that, then you'll do the 2 years. So 2 years of undergrad bachelor, 2 years of the Master of Chiropractic, and then the 1 year of clinical placement on top of that. So 5 years total, and you'll be a chiropractor. So entry into chiropractic is pretty similar to the others. So you need to have a 3-year undergraduate degree in a related science. If you can, that'll be your entry into master. If not, then you can do the bachelor. If you're going direct entry into master, then you'll need some human anatomy and human phys. And GPA required is about 60%, and then competitive would be 65 and up. Okay, so Bachelor of Chiropractic. So say you're coming straight from high school. Now, this is an interesting way of becoming a professional right out of high school. So you can have, with your high school diploma, grade 12 English, math, chemistry, biology, physics are recommended but not required, and then a minimum GPA of 75. So this varies between the provinces, but for Alberta, it's usually the best 4 grade 12 programs, or level 4, and including English language arts. And in BC, it's going to be the average of final marks of your 4 best grade 12, including English. And Ontario, it would be your best sixth grade 12. So your entire grade 12 final year of high school, including English. Um, so, and then, so students often wonder, why would I go all the way to Australia to study chiropractic? We have CMCC right here in Canada. Well, in this case, the Master of Chiropractic is actually pretty similar to the CMCC, not just in terms of length, but also in terms of cost. 100% of graduates find employment at Macquarie within 6 months versus 75% for grads of CMCC. And the Macquarie program has a better student to teacher ratio, so 12 to 1 over 16 to 1. So there's a lot of benefit. Plus, you're in Australia and you're in Macquarie, which is in a beautiful place. And the sports teams at the Macquarie University really do love to work with the chiros. So you get a lot of hands-on experience, and you get to go to games and be field side. Okay, so having gone through all this, I'm sure you're very interested in starting an application, but before we go on, we should probably talk about how to finance your studies, because an international studies tuition is not cheap. So you really want to make sure that you're prepared before you get to offer time and then realize that it's not feasible. And it's a heartbreaker every time I see it happen. So let's talk about it now. So there are really three main sources of income or sources of funding for your overseas degree. And these will be in the form of savings and family support. So you've been working, your family has been squirreling money away for you. This is one of the ways that you'll get some funding. Provincial loans and federal loans. So student aid BC, Alberta student loans. In some cases, students can get OSAP, but then there's also some federal loans that you can apply for as well. And then the big chunk of the money, the lion's share, is going to come from a line of credit, a professional line of credit from a Canadian bank. So the provincial loans can be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 per year, which doesn't do much for your tuition, but it can certainly do a lot to cover your cost of living whilst you're overseas. And then the biggest chunk of the payment is going to be the tuition, and that will come from your line of credit. Oh, yes. And then some students can work when you are on your student visa. You're allowed to work up to 48 hours every 2 weeks. So part-time essentially, whilst classes are in session. And when you're on break, you can work full-time. So you can work up to 48 hours per week. So another way to finance your studies as well. Okay, so Ontario, you can get about $10,000 per year. British Columbia, it's up to $25,000 now. That's great. And then Alberta, $30,000 per year. You lucky Albertans, you. So the strong Canadian dollar is also kind of an incentive, because we were at 90 cents before so we were at 10 cents. Now we're up to 11. So that's great on the dollar. Terrific. Now, what about using your degree in Canada? Okay, for starters, all of these degrees are accredited in Australia. So once you've graduated from your program, you don't have to go through a lengthy licensure process the way you do in Canada. Domestic students in Canada have to go through these lengthy licensing processes as well. So you're not very much apart from, you don't have to do a lot extra than domestic students themselves. However, in Australia, you can jump into the workforce without a lot of foo-for-ah, and you can be in Australia making money, gaining experience, getting clinical hours, and really enjoying life as a professional in Australia. So that is something that a lot of students like to do, especially if they find that their clinical hours are a little bit short. It's a great way to make some money and get your clinical hours at the same time. Plus, you can be working and making money whilst you work on some of your first initial steps to your licensing. So clinical and coursework hours required to practice vary by province, and they vary by program. So I strongly urge all students to reach out to their provincial regulatory board to find out, like, in advance exactly what you'll need to come back, and then carefully track your electives and your hours and your coursework as you go along, so that you don't have any nasty surprises at the end. The provincial licensing body is there to help you figure it all out. And of course, we know a lot of stuff about this process, so we're here to help you with that as well. Okay, so coming back to Canada, there are some things that you can do whilst you're still overseas, including the Context of Physiotherapy online course in Canada, Context of Physiotherapy in Canada online course can be completed at, I think it's University of Toronto and maybe University of Alberta, but the Canadian Alliance of Physiotherapy Regulators, otherwise known as CAPR, will give you a list of courses that you can take while you're overseas. The next step is to have your credentials assessed by CAPR. So you'll be sending them your degree and your course outlines. It's just like applying for a university all over again in terms of the documents. And then they'll check and make sure that you've got all the 1,025 supervised clinical hours that you need to come back. And then the next part is to write the PCE, which is the Physiotherapy Competency Exam. Now, there are two parts to this, depending on your province. So the first part is the written. As of today, you can take the written part of the exam online or like virtually or remotely, I suppose, proctored at a Pearson test center. So again, you can be in Australia and complete those first 3 steps whilst you're still in Australia working, making money. After you've successfully completed the written portion of the PCE, you are then free to come back to your province and register for provisional licensure under the supervision of a fully licensed physiotherapist. Once you've completed that part, then you can do either the clinical exams, or if you're in BC, Alberta, or Ontario, there's a clinical exam that you can do that is provided by the regulatory board. But other provinces such as Manitoba, Saskatchewan, etc., will have different requirements. Some of them aren't an exam at all, just professional experience. So again, I urge you to get in touch with your provincial regulatory board to find out exactly what you need to complete your licensure. And then you'll register with your provincial regulatory body, which will have other steps to complete, such as insurance and a jurisprudence exam and so forth. Again, all the steps that you'll need to complete that licensure will be right there on the regulatory body site. Okay, so occupational therapy credentialing is pretty similar. So first you'll apply to a COTRO, the SEAS, I guess it's the credentialing board. So they'll go through all of your education, your course outlines, your clinical hours, just like CAPR did with the physiotherapists, to ensure that you've got a substantially equivalent degree to a Canadian one. So then you will write their version of the a competency exam, which is the National Occupational Therapy Certification exam. And then you will, again, register with your provincial regulatory board, and you're off to the races working as an OT in this country. Now, chiropractic credentialing has actually just been updated as of October. So rather than 4 or 3 tests that you would have to complete, it's now only 2. There's a written exam and a clinical exam. So that's been very much simplified for you. So once you've completed the written and clinical exams, then you will provide your CCEB, which is the Canadian Chiropractic Examination Board certificate, to the regulatory board in your province where you tend to practice. You'll go through the rest of the steps like the jurisprudence and the insurance portion of the licensure process, and then you will be a fully licensed chiropractic in your province. Okay, so that's a lot of material and I may have talked a little too fast. So no doubt you've got lots and lots of questions. So I urge you to get in touch with us. You can shoot us an email at rehabsci@oztrekk.com. We're happy to get on the phone and talk to you at 866-698-7355. We are located in Perth, Ontario. So we're Canadians, we're Ontarians. We understand everything that you may be going through as an undergrad or as a postgraduate applicant in Australia coming from Canada. So we can certainly help you with any problems or questions you may have. Here's Phoebe Lee. Now, she graduated from UQ Master of Physiotherapy Studies in just this year. So if you would like to follow her on Instagram to find out what it's really like to study in Australia, she invites you to follow her on her Instagram, which is @_Phoebe Lee. Okay, I hope you learned a lot and I hope you have lots and lots of questions. We're absolutely thrilled to hear from you. So please do get in touch, rehabsci@oztrekk.com. We're very, very happy to help you. We can't wait to meet you future healers. So please do reach out. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining. Bye.